Welcome to the NanoCap podcast. I'm your host, Will Chernlin, and I'm excited to have you join me on this journey through the world of NanoCap companies. For the past decade, I've talked to thousands of business owners across various industries. It's been an enlightening experience revealing the vast tapestries of entrepreneurship and innovation that thrives beneath the surface of mainstream media coverage. Each week, I will interview different leaders of NanoCap publicly traded companies to learn about their history, what they do now, and their future. As a reminder, none of this information is financial advice, and it is all for entertainment purposes only. Let's start this week's episode. Hi, everyone. This week we have Alessandro Petruzzi, the co-founder of Terra Innovatum. We also have on this episode Giordano Morichi, the other co-founder of Terra Innovatum, stock ticker NKLR. Terra Innovatum is a nuclear energy company, develops micro-modular nuclear reactors to deliver power solutions. Thanks to you both for coming on the show.
Thank you, Will. It's a pleasure.
So I'll start with Alessandro. As I was looking, it says you're based out of Pisa and born out of Italy, but you somehow ended up in Penn State. So I would love to hear a little bit kind of about your upbringing and what was it like, the culture shock of going to Penn State and probably never watching an American football game in your life. And now every Saturday is dedicated to everyone wearing white in college football. So it couldn't be more America than Happy Valley, Pennsylvania. So tell me a little bit more about how you ended up there in the first place.
Thank you, Will. This is a nice start. I went to Penn State in '98 for the first time, and actually it was not for staying there. It was just for a couple of weeks. We had an internship, exchange of students between Penn State University and University of Pisa. And there, by the way, I met also Cesare Frepoli for the first time. Cesare is now our CEO of the company. 98 that I know Cesare, and we start to cooperate then later in the year. I came back in Penn State in two times. In 2000, the first time was in 2001 for 6 months to complete my master's degree. And then I was coming back again in December 2002 for my PhD. And I did stay there 2 years and a half up to the end of 2020. I enjoy a lot State College and also the stadium. At the time, Joe Paterno was the coach of the team. So I remember very well, and I had very nice memory of the time. No cultural shock at all. I was enjoying the time there.
So yeah, let's fast forward then to 2017, 2018. Giordano, with your background in real estate and just kind of business in general, and Alessandro with your background in nuclear, why did in 2018 nuclear seem like the solution? Because back in 2018, this is before AI, data centers. This is still where they're in Europe, they're shutting down nuclear plants during this time because they're still scared of nuclear. What gave you the confidence that hey, actually, I think we can do it different and I think we can do it better this time?
This is another very good question, Will. And I say it's the first time that I received this question. And you noticed very well that in 2018, actually, nuclear was going down, not going up to the idea of micro-modular reactor. Okay, the first point is that during that time in my former company, we hosted a couple of guys from France, and we gave them the duty to develop the idea of a micro-nuclear reactor. So it was 6 months in which we know what to do for a micro-nuclear reactor, to select material, to have an idea of the concept of how we can. So this was really the origin of our idea about Solo, and then we continue to work after those 6 months in this idea. Because basically what came out to our mind in 2018 were the following situation. First of all, nuclear, we knew very well that was never built for that kind of power. So nuclear was always large nuclear power plants for large power. And so there was no opportunity for nuclear to satisfy the need for small industries, small municipality or community. And this I thought at the time was, I didn't know really the reason, apart the fact that the nuclear really liked to be big. So the first idea was, let's try to penetrate in that sector of the market where nuclear energy was never present. Second, and extremely connected with that, is nuclear reactors are, I'm a nuclear engineer, so are extremely safe, but are safe because the technology is very good. Because we build the reactor in such a way that we can manage also situation of potential accident. And how we manage that is through the use of equipments like accumulator, like extra pool of water that are there, like passive systems that usually are there in order to cope with the hypothetical accident that may occur. But those systems that are there need anyway to be designed, built, maintained. They need to be redundant in number, maybe even diverse in type. And all of this is cost. And anyway, they should be there. And if something happens, they should operate. And at that time, we ask how we can avoid this, how we can create something that is safe by physics and not safe by equipment. So something that cannot explode or cannot melt just because of physics. It's like when you try to boil the water in a pan using a lighter. You cannot boil the water, right? So in that sense, we say what makes difference the nuclear technology respect to the other technology is just the decay power, the power that stay in the plant after you shut down the plant. It's not like a coal plant or a gas plant that whenever you shut down, power goes down. In our case, we have this decay power. Decay power is a percentage of the nominal power. So if we can manage that, if we can reduce the decay power to a very low amount of power, in that case, we don't need even those equipments because the power that stay there, the decay power, can be removed with natural circulation. And that's the reason why we went to microreactor, low power. That means low decay power. That means that we don't need extra equipment to remove the heat, but this heat can be removed by natural circulation of air. So this means safe by physics. So this was the second idea. And the third idea was actually already in 2018 was the time when renewable and the green energy was really going up, solar, wind, everything. And, they need a lot of surface, they need a lot of installation because the power installed is not enough because some part of the day or some days or some months are not working. And anyway, they are connected to the grid. So we thought, why we cannot be small in size, definitely, but why we need really to be connected to the grid, also the nuclear power? Because if we do a small nuclear power plant, we don't need to be connected to the grid. We may be behind. And behind the meter is a lot of advantage because you don't need to build new grid whenever you increase power. And nowadays, the problem that we have, and we see it very well, even today, there was an announcement from the governor Shapiro, Pennsylvania, saying that he will secure the grid connection for the people in respect to the data centers. It's a problem. We need more power, that's true. We can generate more power. Yes, we can. The issue and the bottleneck that we have is how we distribute that increased power to the population, to the data center, whatever. The only solution is behind the meter. So those three ideas were originally part of 2018 concept also.
Yeah, to kind of double click on that. The idea that the grid needs to be balanced and that one of the reasons why it takes so long for nuclear to be built here in the US is because they have to decommission and shut down equal amount of power that the nuclear plant is going to bring on slowly but surely so that you don't knock the grid out of balance. And so was that one of the breakthroughs in your kind of 2018 thinking was that we just don't have to be connected to the grid? And was that new thinking for like different industrial applications that, hey, you can create your power on site, not even hook it up to the grid, and that allows us to move that much faster?
Exactly. This is exactly was part of the idea in 2018. If you need more power, you can just build our reactor. You don't need to get extra connection to the grid. You don't need to unbalance the grid. So there is a lot of advantage, including the fact that if you build now a data center in a remote area, what do? You wait for the grid to go there, Or mining. Mining, you know very well. Also, mining is a sector where our solution might be very, very attractive because we don't need, again, grid. And usually mining is in a very harsh environment with very difficult to reach. But anytime you need to increase the amount of energy that you need, you have some issue with the grid. And the fact that you put a power plant close to you that can last 15 years and you don't need to be connected to the grid, make our solution very similar in terms of comfort of use, like it is the gas turbine. Whenever you need an extra power, now you buy a gas turbine. The problem today is that gas turbine you cannot get even to 2032 because there are not so many available anymore, and you need to pay 100% in advance to get the product in 2032. With us, with solar, we can really have the same concept, the same comfort use of a gas turbine, but with some advantage. The fact that is a reactor that can operate for 15 years without refueling, with a very low cost. Over 45 years, we have 7 cents. And in addition, in particular for our solution, I can tell you also that solar is very good in 2 directions. Reliability, because the fact that we are 1 megawatt electric unit means that whenever you need a lot of power, 100 megawatts, for instance, we can build 100 of these. And when you have 100 of these, the reliability of power increases a lot, because if something happens to 1 or 2, still you have the other 98, 99 working, providing a lot of power. So in case you need a very high reliability, what is our answer? Just buy 1 or 2 more units. So we have 102, 103 units, and still you have 100 megawatts. Or in case you don't need such a reliability, the other part that you can do with our project is to put together units of a larger turbine. If the turbine is larger, the efficiency of the turbine is larger, and so you can get the same 100 megawatt, but with less number of reactors. In our case, for instance, 100 megawatt you can get with 60. So the solution that Solo can offer to the public are really different. We can go from 1 megawatt to several hundreds of megawatts. We can satisfy the reliability requirement, but we can satisfy also, in case is requested, to go even cheaper with the cost of electricity, with a solution that is less reliable, but much, much cheaper. And finally, the other good point of Solo is that we can do also load follow. I think you know very well that nuclear energy was never very good to be used as a load follow. With Solo, thanks to the granulometry we have, I mean the different number of units to reach a certain amount of power, we can really do very good any type of low frequency change of power during the year, for instance, from low season to high season peak. But we can do very well also the high frequency change of power, those that are characterized by seconds, because our turbines are very small. If they are small, means that they can go from 0% to 100% in few seconds. In other terms, means that we can go from 0 power to 100% power in few seconds. This means that we can put together to the solar one very small battery or capacitor. We estimated that in case we need to do load follow for data center, which are characterized by very high oscillation of demand, we can put together with Solo a battery of less than 100 kilowatt hour, so something like a Tesla battery for megawatt electric. And if you know very well that I think for solar or wind, you need 3,000, 4,000 kilowatt hour. So we are 30 times, 40 times less demanding for batteries respected to solar.
So my next question, I think, is going to be for Giordano. So at what point in kind of the business development, growing the business, did you realize that, hey, we're not going to be working on just traditional industrial use cases or desalination plants, and that it's going to be data centers for the next foreseeable future? Was it just as simple as like ChatGPT 3 came out a few years ago, and then the next month they're like, oh my gosh, we're going to need way more data centers, which means we're going to need way more power? Or did it move a little bit slower than that for you to realize that, like, hey, this is going to be demanding power on demand, in remote places and the grid's not going to be able to handle it. And we're the only ones who can solve this. Kind of when did that epiphany happen?
Definitely the versatility of the technology enhances all of the use cases that you mentioned, right? The design itself was deployed for today's use, mindful of the future use of data centers. To build a gigawatt electric plant takes a while, right? It's not an easy thing for a data center of the gigawatt electric scale to be deployed. Shortages and so forth. Definitely we can carry that market. And as Alessandro was explaining in terms of technology, we can have different approaches. We can combine a balance of plant. We can have a balance of plant per reactor so that we can scale with the growth of the data centers. We have an agreement with a modular data center itself that enables to scale over time, not only within the US, but also outside of the US. I think in terms of go-to-market and approachability of this type of opportunities has been happening across the past year or so. Definitely as AI and as the different forms are increasing, you have a shift of focus because again, the grid is not able to withhold all of the power needed to deploy these type of technologies. So are we changing completely our business model based on AI? No. We do believe the industrial applications are extremely valuable and needed, especially the behind-the-meter application. And in terms of scalability, how many industries you can think worldwide that need 1, 2, 5 megawatt electric compared to like a large gigawatt electric data center, right? So in terms of revenue generation, in terms of the market, we cater both equally in parallel. Of course, a lot of the new offtake agreements that we've been in ongoing discussion are usually data center or have that sort of aspect related because that's where the world is heading and that's what is needed so far today a lot. A lot of people are using ChatGPT and Claude and all of the other platforms on a day-to-day basis, right? Which is creating a structural shift in society. So we can definitely be at the forefront of those. But I think it's important to remind investors and people that will listen to this and see it that the versatility of our technology enables us to cater both markets just as equally. A lot of the orders coming in, a lot of the conversations are definitely catered toward the growth and development of the data centers because of the behind-the-meter application, because of now the administration and the new ruling that is coming up, right, where the off-takers at the end of the day have to pay the infrastructure costs of this type of applications, which will not include us because we are behind the meter, no infrastructure added. This is the advantage, right? But a lot of the other companies in the SMR world will be faced with these type of questions on a bigger scale, right? At the same time, we can cater pretty much everything else from remote island operation, harbor operation, definitely defense projects, NATO allied countries and whatnot, right? So
usually around this time, as I'm kind of wrapping up the episode, I ask kind of what do the next 5 years look like? But I'd like to phrase it a little bit differently for you of how do you take advantage of the next 5 years? You went from not a single person was talking about energy independence or talking about how nuclear is the only green energy that we can rely on 8 years ago. And now, like you're saying, the president of the United States is saying we need to invest more in nuclear. They're saying, hey, everyone pay for their own nuclear because we're going to need so much power. How do you take advantage of these next 5 years as this kind of gold rush and everyone's trying to decide what is the best nuclear option for each of the use cases? And how do you really make sure that you're not left behind? Because there is so many companies who want to get into this, even though you've been the one doing this for maybe the longest.
I think here, the first point for us is execution. So we really needed to focus on what we are currently doing since 2018. We arrived on the market in 2025, but actually, if you see the number of documents we submitted to US NRSC in terms of topical report, technical reports, and now in June we will start with the construction permit, you will see that notwithstanding the time that we are now on the market is very limited, we are submitting a lot of documents, definitely more than some other companies. So execution is what is now our first priority. Execution in licensing, execution in supply chain. We close our supply chain. We are now really transforming the agreement we had with the suppliers in real order, paying real money for getting turbines, steam generator, graphite, and so on. So execution is what we will distinguish us. The The execution is what will bring us to license our first reactor at the end of 2027 and to switch on our reactor in 2027 and to become commercial in 2028. This is how we differentiate from the others. Then, in respect to the second part, the first part of your question, I think here is the market. I think the market need to become more mature in respect to nuclear. We are not doing, sometimes I like to say that we are not doing the new cell phone. We are not in the 80s where you start to see a person with a very large cell phone. What we are doing is mostly to convert large cell phone in a smartphone. This is what we are currently doing. So nuclear technology is not new. What we are doing is not new. And also others, in some ways, is not new. So I think the market should mature enough with time this understanding of what is nuclear. And in that sense, Solo is taking also advantage with respect to other solutions, because what is Solo? Solo basically is a sort of research reactors. In Penn State, we have a research reactor, but in the United States, there is more than 30 research reactors across all the country. And they are in the university campus, and there are many students every day going close to the research reactors without any risk for the health, for them to stay there. And this solution is not a solution that we invented or a solution that we propose now to the market. Actually, it's there since the 60s. The MIT research reactor is there since 1958. And it has so many years, and nothing happens. So what I'm saying is that from one side, our side, we really needed to demonstrate the execution and that our reactor is operating based on the efficiency that we are saying. From the other side, the market should become enough mature to accept this solution. And there is not so many options, in my opinion, because gas turbine, that is the solution that now is the most technical available, the most technical credible, are not available anymore. Because if you order now a gas turbine again, you will get in 2032. You need more power. There is no availability. What we do? The only solution is to wait. There is not so much other solution. Renewable are not enough. Finally, the world recognized after they go up between 2010 and 2020 that renewable are not enough. So there is not so much solution. Only the market should become enough mature to accept.
Yeah, no, and I really like your point about the students walking by the nuclear reactors on a daily basis and nothing happens. Nuclear is similar to space flight. Seems like they both in the 1980s had some disasters that scarred a whole generation away from the technology, and that this new generation that's not growing up hearing about Chernobyl or about the Challenger rocket ship blowing up is not nearly as scared. And then just with the computer advancements, the tech advancements, we obviously have to be so much better at it now than we were in the 60s through the 80s. So as we wrap up here, I got just kind of one more question. I would love to hear from both of you. So 5-10 years from now, what's one application for the Solo or the kind of 1 megawatt micro-modular reactor that we're not thinking of now? We weren't thinking about data centers as the main use case in 2018. What's something that we're going to be using nuclear reactors for that we wouldn't think of maybe 5-10 years from now?
That's a very good point. I think what really I would like to see, and at the same time, what make really a challenge for everybody, not only for us, is to see a reactor in the middle of a city. So this, I think, is the real challenge. Is the things that I would like to do immediately, but is the things that will not happen because we needed to pass through this maturity of the market about the understanding the technology risk. So I see at the beginning, starting from 2028, 2029, application of Solo for small industry, data center, maybe hospital. This is also the things that I would like a lot to see, mining. But instead, the possibility to see the reactor just in the middle of a data center. We like to see the reactor in the middle of Columbus Circus or in the Central Park in New York. This will take a little more time just because we need to pass through this public acceptance, I think. And this will be really the success of nuclear. Whenever we will put the reactor in the middle of a big city, this will be the, how to say in English, the real evidence that nuclear is a technology and has been successful.
Yeah, I think Thomas Edison, way back when he first envisioned power, he envisioned a power plant on like every other corner of each block kind of thing. So it's more towards what you guys were thinking opposed to what Tesla ended up pushing forward. So yeah, as we wrap up here, if people want to learn more about Terra Innovatum, where should I send my audience and where can they learn more?
Yeah, a couple of things that I was just going to say. A lot of the applications that Alessandro was mentioning are definitely important. The radioisotope production is very, very important, and we're working on that. There's only a few companies in the world that are producing, meaning that if one shuts down or there's problem, the whole radioactive production for oncology treatment, cancer treatment is completely off, right? So nuclear technologies can be helped and used for helping the healthcare system, right? The other applications that will take some R&D on our end, maybe 10 years down the road, will definitely be space technologies, propulsion of space, as Alessandro says, as a nuclear PhD. Something very exciting for any physicist is to bring a reactor to space. So that will be also the use case. Also naval submarines, we're talking about the ROTC, the naval permeation, the federal land, and all of these type of applications that I think will be extremely exciting. But yes, I think that the most success will be to deploy this reactor in the urban centers. And I urge you to go again on the MIT. If you go on Google Maps and type MIT nuclear lab and you go and see the street view, you see just a plate that says nuclear laboratory. And it's behind a nuclear reactor, behind a brick building with bikes parked in front of it, students walking. So we already have it within the cities. We just need to scale it and absorb it on a social standpoint. In terms of reach out, you can reach out to me for any investment inquiries to our IR team. All of the information are placed on the IR website, investors at terrainnovatum.com. You can go on terrainnovatum.com to learn about the technology and, of course, the investor page, all the presentations and NASDAQ listed related materials.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast. And for those of you still listening, please remember to subscribe and review. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not provide financial, legal, or any other advice. The information is not investment advice or any offer to buy or sell any securities or to make any investment. The views expressed by the guests are their own, and any reference to third-party products, services, or information does not constitute an endorsement therefore by NanoCap Podcast or its affiliates. The NanoCap Podcast express disclaims all liability for any individual's use of